The University of Witwatersrand has appointed Professor Lynn Morris as its Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Research and Innovation. Professor Morris is an internationally acclaimed leader in research management and has won numerous accolades for her scientific research, including the Harry Oppenheimer Fellowship Award, and that was in 2017. Before her appointment, she was the Interim Executive Director at the National Institute for Communicable Diseases. She's also spent 25 years doing research to develop an HIV vaccine. Professor Morris joins us now to talk about this new role, COVID-19, and perhaps why an HIV vaccine is yet to be licensed. Prof, it's great to have you on the program. Firstly, congratulations on the appointment. It's a 5-year gig, so to speak, for lack of a better term, and of course, you're spoiled for choice about where to start, given the many scientific questions we're yet to answer, especially around COVID-19.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much for having me and giving me this opportunity, because it really is an exciting time to be taking this position at WITS. WITS is really a leading international university, and and there's a lot going on at WITS. I think, as we've seen during the COVID pandemic, how important it is to get researchers, to apply their minds to the problems that we face.
Yeah, and so where does one begin typically? I mean, you've got so much already behind you, and sometimes that could, I guess, split your focus about what exactly you'd want to hone in on.
Yeah, indeed. We're spoiled for choice. There's a lot of exciting things going on. And of course, at universities, people are just full of very good ideas, and deciding which ones we are going to go forward with is actually the hard part, because there's certainly no shortage of exciting projects. But I think, and obviously my focus, is I come from a biomedical background, and so our immediate focus is to really build on some of the the successes that we've had in the COVID space, and to think more broadly about how we can apply some of these technologies, to other infectious diseases, and then, to other non-communicable diseases, as they're called. But really to apply the principles of doing good and excellent research across the university, and to really also, I guess, reinvigorate some of the older projects, or some of the older infrastructure. So there's certainly lots of exciting things on the go.
Yeah. Speak to us about what the scientific community is cracking its head about during a context of a global health crisis. In the past, we've heard that part of the reasons why we've been able to develop vaccines so quickly is because there's been such a great uptick in funding, for instance, to look into some kind of vaccine for a disease like COVID-19. Does that change the agenda at all?
Oh, no, absolutely. COVID, as we all know, this was a brand new virus, and so nobody knew anything about it. And, this is where research plays a critical role, because we all had to take our previous experience and apply it to studying this new virus. So, in fact, the rapid development of the vaccine really is because there had been so much effort, put into HIV. So it was able to build on pre-existing things. But the fact that people were able to very quickly pivot their expertise towards COVID, I think, really bodes well for thinking about how we're going to deal with infectious diseases in the future. And there's absolutely no doubt that, funding is a key part of that.
Yeah.
Because, vaccine development is very expensive. But, another very key part is the involvement of industry. And certainly for COVID, major pharmaceutical companies have played a critical role. They've really come to the party in a way that they've never done before, because this obviously is a global health crisis, and they really piled in, and actually, the level of collaboration between, global collaboration between academia and industry and government has really been quite remarkable.
Right. You mentioned HIV. In my mind, the research done there has become a springboard, if you like, for the type of work that can be done in trying to ensure that we have treatment for COVID-19. But why is it that we still don't have a vaccine for something like HIV, despite the work, the hours, the money that had been spent trying to understand the virus?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. In some ways, COVID has made vaccine development look easy.
Yeah.
But it's not easy at all. It just so happens that this particular virus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, is an easier target HIV. But look, we're also, as people are, can see in the media, the virus itself is still throwing up some surprises for us, with the new variants, and of course now with some of the side effects with some of the vaccines. So the vaccine development is a bumpy road, but certainly, it's been a lot easier to make a vaccine to SARS-CoV-2 than to HIV, and that's really because of the fundamental difference between the viruses. So HIV is a rapidly changing virus. It's a very mutable virus, and it basically just can change and get around anything you throw at it. But another critical thing with HIV is that it's what's called a retrovirus, and so it integrates into your genome. Unlike COVID, people clear the virus from their body. So it's not there to continue to reemerge, which is what happens with HIV.
Yeah.
Even with antiretroviral treatment, as good as it is, people stop. HIV bounces back.
Who would have thought that the unintended, call it, outcome of developing a vaccine so quickly is that it makes it look easy, and so we demand vaccines for all kinds of things in record time. But let's speak a bit more about those variants that are in some respects complicating our fight against COVID-19. I remember we had initially been told to be patient because the vaccines we're seeing now are, if you like, the first wave of candidates, and hopefully we'll get to a stage where we can develop the type of treatment that's able to, I guess, fight any type of variant that comes about. How close are we to that phase of our fight against something like COVID-19, or is it a bit premature to ask that now?
No, it's a great question because, and this is one of this is the beauty actually of these new generation vaccines, is they can also be tweaked or updated a lot more easily. Particularly the mRNA vaccines, the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines, they can be, the genetic material that you put into those vaccines can be very easily modified. And in fact, that is already happening. The Moderna vaccine, or the next generation that's really based on the variant that was, that's circulating here in South Africa, is already in clinical trial. But I think also this is where, again, research is so critical, is that we have shown here at Wits University, some very talented researchers here at Wits, showed that people who are infected with the variant actually are able to counter the earlier variants that were circulating. And so that tells you that this new vaccine is likely to be very cross-reactive. And so really it is going to be a process of figuring out, which are the right sequences to be including in these vaccines in order to have a very cross-reactive antibody response, which is what we're going to need. Because as we know, these, this first generation vaccine was, the antibodies were able to, or the virus was able to get around the antibodies that were elicited by that first generation vaccine.
It's all Sorry, it's all very incredibly fascinating, as I'm going to say. But what I've also learned speaking to experts like you on a platform like ours is that there isn't always a unified voice from the world of science, which was a bit counterintuitive for me because I'd always imagined that science is science is science and the facts are right in front of us. But what COVID-19 is teaching us is that sometimes we simply don't know enough to be able, for instance, to even guide government on what to do next. Where do we place work done by higher education institutions like Wits in that murky ground?
Well, so that's how science works, because, it's an iterative process. People have their own ideas, and often, these ideas are based on limited information. And of course, as new information comes, we have to update our evidence and our hypotheses about where to go next. It's not just a simple truth. Because, and as we've seen with COVID, that it's a moving target. And so I agree, sometimes it must seem, to the public that things do look in disarray. And certainly there are, disagreements among people about what should be done. But, with time, it becomes clear, what the right approach is. And we just hope that, enough people are listening and enough people are up to date with the latest findings that, that those things are implemented quickly.
Yeah. Given that then, should we be a whole lot more charitable to government, given what many people feel has been a stop-start affair with our vaccine rollout?
Look, I think the Minister of Health has a very unenviable job. This is a tough space to be balancing all these various demands, health demands, and obviously, thinking about, the economy of our country and how you manage all that. But, I think also government appreciates getting some critical feedback too, because, actually we all need to contribute to how we're going to manage, this epidemic. But obviously the responsibility lies with them. But I do think healthy dialogue and healthy and constructive engagement is what we need.
Yeah, it'd be remiss of me not to hone in on what's been taking place in the higher education space, perhaps the sort of news that aren't necessarily unfolding inside the lab. And that's just, questions around access to higher education in general, you taking up what is considered to be a leadership role within that space yourself. And it just so happens that we're going to be having a higher education minister, Dr. Bladen Zamande, in our studios from about 10 o'clock later today. I mean, if there's any message that you feel should be sent to his desk as you take up this role, what would it be?
No, absolutely. This is a major crisis for our country, and it's a national crisis. And just at WITS, for example, we had 70,000 applications for 5,000 places at WITS. There's a huge demand and a need for education, higher education in South Africa, and to fund it. And really, I really hope that between government and ourselves that we're able to solve this problem, because students desperately want to want an education, and education is very expensive, and we need to find a way to get the most deserving students or the most academically talented students into universities and to get them to get them their degrees so that they can go back to society and make real contributions to our future. They are our future, so we really have to solve this problem.
Absolutely. Hopefully the minister is listening. Professor Morris, once again, congratulations on your new appointment. You don't need me to tell you that you've got a lot of work ahead of you. Thanks very much indeed. Really appreciate it. Professor Lynn Morris is the new WITS Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation. Thanks very much indeed once again.